Hello and welcome to our program Violence Free World. My name is Cally Ikpe, and today we continue our discourse on how to get our country violence free. And my guest on the program today is a veteran broadcaster, veteran journalist and activist, if you like, and CEO of Radio Now 95.3 FM in Lagos, Kadaria Ahmed, where we'll be discussing several issues, but chief amongst them is the issue of politics of terrorism and the involvement of journalists. Now, Kadaria, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Cally, for having me.
All right. Well, Kadaria, I think we need to now speak to the participation of the media, the involvement of the media in all of this. But that will be when we return from this break. This is Violence Free World. I'm speaking with my guest, Kadaria Ahmed, and we'll be right back after this special report. Please be here. The role of the media has recently come under scrutiny following the protracted bloodletting and violence that has engulfed our country.
This will not be time for video. Get out! Get out! Get out!
It has come to the fore that issues such as hate speech, misrepresentation of fact, and biased reportage have ultimately added fuel to the ongoing fire.
The mainstream media chooses which victim to victimize and which victim to support. That is why most of us, even as activists, did not say anything about the incidents.
Many believe that the media has become an instrument of propaganda and blackmail, a trend that negates its traditional role of creating a peaceful and harmonious atmosphere. While it may seem convenient to blame the largely unregulated social media, there is abundant evidence that the traditional media, that is, radio, television and newspapers, more often than not, lend themselves to false, biased and unconfirmed reports. This in itself has helped to escalate the ongoing violence in no small way.
I am not saying that we should underreport crimes, but the more you give them those platforms, because they are calling for attention, the more they feel like they have succeeded or they are succeeding. So it's important for the media not only to do balancing, but also to be more patriotic in its reportage of the entirety of the situation.
Ethnic profiling, for instance, gained much ground from a reporting pattern that persisted unchecked for a long time. There is also the challenge of practitioners turning deaf ears to certain developments where sentiments and special interests are involved.
The mainstream media are paid by the security apparatus, they are paid by corrupt government officials to keep quiet. They only talk on that which interests them and that which is their interest. That which is in their interest will attract the international media.
Finally, just as some people have turned acts of violence like kidnapping, banditry, and even insurgency into a business, it is equally believed that the media could help bring about peace if professionalism, empathy, and patriotism are brought to bear on news reportage as we crave a violence-free Nigeria. Welcome back, Kadaria. Now
Cally.
Let's go.
You like calling my name, Cally?
Yes. Oh. Really. Let's go back to this issue of the media involvement. How well have we done? How well have the media done in checking the spate of violence in Nigeria? Have we served to exacerbate, or we have helped in dousing it?
Okay, so there are two things to say here. We haven't done as well as we should, and I mean my views regarding the way the Nigerian media has operated are sort of commonplace, and some of the things I've said now publicly are conversations I've been having for years behind the scenes with my colleagues regarding our responsibility to this country. Having said that, and I will go back to it in a bit, but I just want to point out that sometimes we think of the media almost as if they are completely divorced from society, and they're not. Nigerian journalists are regular Nigerians like everybody else, susceptible to the same pressures, susceptible to the same issues, susceptible to the same vulnerabilities as regular Nigerians. I think part of the concerns and the issues that we have is that because our media space is not very lucrative, because we don't make as much money, there are a lot of people who are under financial pressure. And I think media owners have to take some responsibility for that. There are media owners who make money and then don't put money back into supporting their staff, training them, giving them salaries. What that means is that they are also vulnerable and can be induced, if you like. But overall, I think many of us, especially the younger ones, don't quite understand how significant our role is in society. We are in the Constitution of Nigeria for a reason. Our role is constitutionally protected because democracy does not work if you don't have a functioning media, which is about the only thing that can check political office holders, people in power, people in authority. And that role is sacrosanct and is important. And because that role is so important, we ourselves have got to be accountable. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. As you hold people accountable, you yourself must be accountable. So if you look at some of the issues we faced issues of money, we faced issues, and in a few places, maybe issues of ethics as well. But it's not one issue that is causing this trouble. It's multiple issues that cause us to either become partisan or to report emotionally. And when you report emotionally, you're doing a disservice to citizens who are supposed to serve, because we're dealing with issues that are serious. And so our job is to lead public conversations on things that are serious, sensitive, maybe even controversial, but without causing further harm, which is that rule of first do no harm that you find in journalism, or exacerbating the situation. It requires skills, it requires delicacy, it requires a certain amount of thinking. And unfortunately, the standards in our media have not allowed that to happen. But there's hope on the horizon, I can tell you that. So the industry collectively, Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, leading broadcasters, media owners, and leading journalists, we've been talking. And we finally, and I think they issued a release a month or so ago, we finally decided that in order to improve standards and to regain the public trust so that we can do our job better, that we're going to co-regulate. What that means is that we want to do self-regulation. We have agreed to set up an ombudsman mechanism so that we agree standards to hold ourselves to. And an ombudsman that is, selected from within the industry, but also, professionals outside, like the legal profession or accountants, is going to be co-regulated with public and the media, and it's industry-wide. So we will be announcing that ombudsman process within the next few weeks. And I think that will help to regulate the media and regulate our standards and also push our standards up, because we now have to be answerable to each other. It's some sort of peer review mechanism that we've all agreed to do. So we are getting there.
I think that's very commendable. But while you're still at that, let's also look at this reality that you face too. Look at the media as look at the role of the media, look at the activities of the media as some sort of a battlefield itself. We have two you have the actual battlefield where bombs and all of these things fly, and then you have the virtual one, which is what I refer to here as the media battlefield.
Information wars is what you're referring to.
Yes, it is a thing of contestation now between the belligerents. You see, even the terrorists themselves want a certain narrative pushed out there so that they can win sympathy to themselves. As so you hear sometimes
so when I talk about the media, it's important to differentiate, Cally.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
Let me land. You see, you even hear things about ungoverned territories, or you even hear things about terrorists now going to start collecting tax and then providing services for people, and then they are beginning to be liked much more than all those things that are narrative that are being driven to the extent that sometimes it can push you to begin to feel sympathetic towards or to be empathetic towards the terrorists. Also, generally, I do not feel honestly, I do not envy the typical journalist, the kind of situation they found themselves. And you hinted at something where you said people are underpaid. Chief Raymond Duplessis, I was speaking with him like this, and he told me this much, exactly what you're saying now, that people are underpaid. He knows about that. So these people are upset, they're vulnerable. In fact, over vulnerable right now. How do we manage all of these ones? I don't know how that guild you just formed can help us too.
Okay, so it's important that we understand soft power. The media is at the heart of soft power. The media can make or break societies and communities. It's not accidental that countries like the United Kingdom invest huge sums of money in the BBC World Service, and they've done that for decades. It's not an accident that the government of Qatar set up Al Jazeera and is pumping dollars into it. It's not an accident that the government of the United States has National Public Radio, NPR. Every one of these governments understands very clearly that the media has the power to shape minds and to change opinions. For a very long time in this country, many people, and in fact even till tomorrow, think of America as the land of milk and honey. There's no country that is serious about development and nation building that allows, accidental development of its media, right? So when I talk about media, if you see that terrorism, that people like Al-Qaeda, people like ISIS, even the ones we have here, ISWAP and all that, they all understand the power of the media, and so they invest in the media. The problem is that the people that are supposed to counter them, and when I talk about my constituency, that's the constituency I'm talking about. I'm talking about independent media in Nigeria, and maybe to a certain extent even the government-owned media. I will assume, and I'm making this assumption, and I think it is true, because some of these people I know personally, that none of them wants to see Nigeria on its knees. By and large, all these media owners that we're talking about have been benefited greatly from this place called Nigeria. In fact, they are among the elites because they own media houses. So my assumption is that it is not in their interest for terrorists to overrun this country, and that they would not deliberately do anything to wreck this country. But the usual things that we've used to divide us all the time, ethnicity and religion, we are not making the connection between what we do as journalists and the deepening divide in Nigeria, right? So somebody asked me when I released that statement regarding the role of the media, that, are you saying they should not tell the truth and they should cover up and not report what has happened? And I said, no, nobody's saying that. But if you are a seasoned journalist and you understand the ethics of the profession and how it is done, you understand that there's a way you report that is not designed to shock, that is not designed to stoke, that is not designed to heighten tension. And part of that is that complete detachment and being able to report as objectively or as balanced as possible. I'll give you a typical example. Recently, I've been called by different people, and I've been running classes with senior journalists on ethical reporting, looking at identity politics and how it sort of, can feed bad journalism if care is not taken, ethnic profiling, all those things that I talk about. And the shock was palpable. So I created headlines, right? This was, at the height of when the last program that I did was at the height of when gunmen across the southeast were attacking police stations and government institutions and all of that. And my first headline that I shared with people said, Igbo gunmen on a killing spree in the south. Igbo gunmen. And the whole class erupted. Ah! Why are you not writing your people's name? You know, I'm probably the most famous Fulani woman in Nigeria. So, blah, blah, blah. I said, just calm down now. Then I did Yoruba cultists attack people in Ikorodu. And then another set of the class erupted. Ah! So I asked them, what's wrong with those headlines? And they all went on and on about, you can't say that because you are now tarnishing a whole group of people. But I said, but can we agree that based on the information we have, that the people who are attacking these police stations are Igbo? Yes, but you know, okay, can we agree that the Badu cultists that were caught in Ikorodu, you know, killing people, that they are Yoruba? But I said, okay. Then I pulled out their headlines. Fulani herders. And they all went quiet.
Fulani headsman.
Yes. Right? And I said, so what is the difference between the previous headlines and this one? Is it because this speaks to your bias that you are okay with it? And before the end of the class, 2 people walked out. They just couldn't deal with being confronted with their issues. And I think one of the headlines that I pulled out was written by one of them. But the majority of the class, which had at least 20 senior editors, now sat down and started a conversation on these issues that I had drawn their attention to. So here is the thing. We all have biases, including me. Because we're people. We're all people. What you do with your biases is that you put processes in place. And that's what professional newsrooms do. So that your processes do not allow your biases to influence how you do your job. And that's professionalism. That's what professionalism is about. And so it's about going back to the drawing board. And it's what I'm trying to do in my newsroom in radio now. Teaching the younger ones how to ensure that their biases do not necessarily negatively seep. And there would always be exceptions because, you know, we are human. But by and large, you have to ask yourself the question of why you are a journalist. The problem is you cannot present yourself as an objective, balanced journalist and then be pushing out things that are clearly tweaked. It doesn't serve the profession well, it doesn't serve the country well. And that's really been my advocacy in this industry.
Seriously, that doesn't make sense. If you are coming from a very personal, no, maybe a solo operation, but coming from a newsroom, people by different people from different backgrounds, then you have your bias coming up. It's natural. It's okay for you to feel that way. But someone else, the benefit of working with someone, working in the place that is a company, that's where someone else should be able to check all of this.
And there are things like recusing yourself. So it's not every story I do. I'm even happy to concede that we may have people working in the media, and it is probably correct, the law of probability says they exist, that don't believe in Nigeria as a union anymore, that believe that yes, we should be 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 different countries. And that is a valid position to hold. The question is, how is what you are advancing likely to advance your agenda without causing harm? So the issue is, are you okay with causing harm? If the question is yes, then I guess people can carry on doing what they're doing. But if the question is no, we don't want to cause harm, but we want to achieve this, then you have to ask yourself how you can do that without stoking violence, without stoking ethnic hatred, without stoking religious hatred. Because in the end, and I think the evidence is now clear to everybody, it consumes us all. In the end, there's no winner when that happens. We're still paying the price for not having honest conversations with ourselves after the Civil War and everything that paid. That's why Nigeria continues to bleed. Because you see, anything you deny doesn't heal. It just becomes like a shrouded secret. And anything that doesn't heal continues to bleed.
This is Violence Free World. I'm speaking with my guest, Kadaria Ahmed, and we'll be right back after this time out. Be here. Welcome back. Okay, Kadaria, let's look at this stuff. There's a human part, the real you as in you, not you, the journalist.
Yes.
Now. Something happened sometime. There was a public protestation. You staged a public protest in reaction to the
well, 2019 you're talking about.
Yes.
In 2019.
Of killing in Zamfara State.
Yes.
And a lot of people were now seeing a different light. Wow, this is Kadaria, the citizen Kadaria, not the journalist now. You're concerned. Having done all of that, that was quite bold of you. That was brave. Some would say, no, let me land in this so you can answer all of it together. Looking back today, between 2019 and now, would you say the issues you raised, had there been any remarkable difference?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So speak to that. What was going on in your mind?
Well, okay, so I come from Zamfara, and it's a state that has been on the fringes of national consciousness for a very long time, a lot like many of the states that we visit. And just as you sit down in Nigeria and criticize Western media for their coverage of Nigeria, there is a way in which, as a journalist working within the profession and who has regard for a lot of my colleagues, I believed that the problem of Zamfara was not getting the attention it required in the media because it was not something taking place down south. And it's not, that's why inclusion matters. So it might not even be deliberate, but people have a way of focusing on the things that concern them, even when you are in a newsroom. So something that happens in Ibadan or in Lagos is likely to get more attention, or Abuja, because those are sort of the centers of national life, than something in Nnewi or in Aba. Yes. And Zamfara or Sokoto. It's just the nature of the beast. The way we complain about the Western media, or they don't cover us, or they only cover, but it's the same thing. So that's why people push for inclusion and say, look, inclusion matters. At the time that I protested, nobody was talking about Zamfara. And yet daily we were burying 30, 40, 50 people. In fact, I took on the BBC because after that protest, the BBC did a fact check and said, oh, they've checked and it doesn't look like the numbers are quoted are correct. In that same report, they said it is a conflict that is underreported. And I said to them, look at you contradicting yourselves. You say it's underreported and you're saying my numbers are wrong based on numbers reported. That can you see where you are making a mistake? So in terms of at least drawing national and international attention to the problem, I think my protest worked, right? Because now it has become a regular part of coverage. People are talking about it, people are reporting the numbers, people are sending, including international media, they're sending people into Zamfara who are reporting on what is going on. So in that sense, it succeeded. In the sense of sort of pressurizing government to take a more proactive measure, even if they are, and I'm saying this because I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, the results have not been the results we want. And there's a reason for that, in my view. The reason is, you see a lot of, when you read in the newspapers, you hear, and I did a special program on insecurity about 6 weeks ago. So I traveled across Zamfara. I went into multiple places. I had to go in quietly. Nobody knew I was there. And then I interviewed the Chief of Defense Staff, Leo Irabo. I spoke to the governor of Zamfara. I spoke to a few, analysts, and I put it all together and I put it out on Channels TV. What quickly became clear to me is that we're at war. And that same thing of refusing to accept what is going on is limiting our engagement with it. So you see soldiers having what the governor of Borno says is better success in Maiduguri. But in Maiduguri, there is an acceptance. In Borno, there's an acceptance in Yobe that this is a war region. And so in addition to the Air Force, you actually see heavy military presence. So infantry is supporting air power and air power is supporting infantry. In places like Zamfara, Air Force will go in, but there's no infantry to do the mop-up operations.
Kadaria, I must commend you and congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
You're a very wonderful person. It's been a very exciting session.
Thank you. And now, by the way, our election programs have also started. So we have a few town halls between legislators and National Assembly members as a way of deepening an understanding of the way the National Assembly works. First one is Saturday in Ibadan. They are regional. And we're doing this in collaboration with Channels TV, so it will also be on television.
Very well, Kadaria. Thank you very much for obliging me. Well, like you promised, we're coming back to have this conversation very, very, very soon.
Thank you.
Well, I've been speaking with veteran broadcaster, veteran journalist, Kadaria Ahmed, an activist too, if you like. My name is Cally Ikpe. Same time next week promises much more if you endeavor to be here. But until then, please remember, like we always say, to remain on the road to a violence-free Nigeria. Thank you again for watching.
No more.